Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Glad to be back with you. Lots of things going on behind the scenes. I finished my 5-day challenge last week, and the winner was Monica. So I have sent her a copy of my ebook that is now finished. I'm really excited because it's taken me probably about 3 months of research to finish that one. Just in terms of getting all the daily requirements and the deficiency information for each of the vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. Morning, Monica. So that was quite a bit of time spent at the library doing that. But it's over and now I can focus on something else. And I'm really excited. It is in the shop on my website. If you want a copy, I will be doing a post about it probably later this week, just so it hits both my Facebook pages. The topic today, the 17th of August, was International Homeless Animals Day. And usually most of the pet holidays that I find are for the States. So I was happy that this one was international because most of them, when they have something really good like clearing out shelters, they are only for the States. But this one was both. I know that in the States they also have a yearly pet holiday called Just One Day, where for one day they don't euthanize any pets and minimize the adoption fee so that the animals get adopted. And for International Homeless Animals Day, they usually have an event called Clear Out the Shelters. And again, minimizing the adoption fee. They said that this was their biggest one ever, and the adoption rate went up 22% last week for Clear Out the Shelters. They made it a whole week just because it's easier to manage that way. So that made me really happy. I spent Saturday at the Animal Rights March in Toronto. It was crazy. I've never been to an activist event before, especially a march, and to see 1,000 people marching through the streets of Toronto with a police escort shutting the streets down and megaphones and signs and chants. It was the energy was very intense, and I'm glad I had that experience. Hopefully we'll be able to do something with that energy. I know we were on CP24, so that was really exciting. And it was mostly peaceful. I heard something at the end about them storming the mall or something. I had left by then, so that was not, I did not know that happened. But back to the topic at hand. For Homeless Animals Day, in Canada, these stats are actually for Canada. I was able to find some. There are 3.9 million homeless dogs and 3.4 million homeless cats. And in terms of dogs, only 1 out of 10 dogs born find a home. Which, if that statistic doesn't scare you, then you need to do some more research into this, because there are a lot of homeless animals that are being bred unnecessarily, and the rescues are full. A lot of the rescues can't take on any more animals because they're either by donation and not for profit, or they're not getting enough adoptions, so they can't bring more animals in, and they need our help. So luckily on, I guess tomorrow, because today's Tuesday, I'm going to see one of the rescues and hopefully work with some of their longer term cases to hopefully help them get adopted, which would be really nice. There was the issue as well, because Canada is seen as a land that welcomes everyone, which we are. We also import a lot of animals to rescue them from other places. Typically, I know the SPCA in Mexico ships animals here. I've seen animals from Portugal, China, all of that. So while those animals are getting adopted, the ones that are being shipped in, the ones that are here already, the 3.9 million dogs and the 3.4 million cats are not getting adopted. And while cats are the most popular pet by number, meaning most people who have a cat have more than one cat, meaning they have multiple pets, but most people who have a dog either have one or just two. Usually cats go up to 5, I believe the statistic was. So cats are more likely to get adopted just because it's easier to have more than one because they're fairly independent. Dogs less so they tend not to get adopted as much. The statistics on black dogs or dark colored pets are really sad, especially seniors, specially abled pets, and any with a medical condition tend not to get adopted. Usually puppies are the first to get adopted, middle-aged dogs next, but definitely, especially ones that come in pairs. If it's like a brother or sister and they can't be separated, it's really hard for them to find homes. So sometimes, even if you can't adopt an animal from a shelter, you can volunteer at the shelter. You can just spread the word around. If you see a post about an animal that's adoptable, you can share it with someone who you think might be interested, or pass it around just to kind of help them out. They usually don't have a really big budget for advertising, so it's kind of helping spread the word without costing them anything. The abandonment rate is also really high. I'm going to do a video in September about the most absurd reasons people have abandoned their pets. And a lot of rescue staff got together and wrote an article for, forget what pet magazine, but they put it together listing the most absurd reasons people give up their pets, and I wanted to make it a whole video because there are so many and it makes me really mad. So I have a feeling that that one will be really interesting for those who haven't seen the article before. Over 250,000 pets go into a shelter every year. 250,000 new pets. So this is basically adding to the 3.4 and 3.9. Cats are 2 times more likely than dogs to be surrendered to a shelter. Monica says, I am part of many rescue groups and it is so sad to see the senior dogs and larger dogs and ill dogs always take longer to adopt. Yes, the reasons are disgusting. I think it's ironic because many people go for puppies but then aren't willing to put in, or kittens, put in the effort to train them, potty train them, spend time socializing them, and they end up wishing they had gotten a middle-aged dog instead, one that already comes kind of preset with those behaviors. But a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to shape this pet to be the most amazing pet ever, and then they don't have the experience or knowledge to do that, and then they struggle with it, and sometimes the animal ends up being brought back, which makes me really sad. Strays are 2 times more common than surrendered pets, and only 10% of sheltered pets come in spayed or neutered, which is really low, because if we want less animals in the shelter, spaying and neutering is always a good option. Just don't do it too early, because that can cause some hormonal issues. They are slowly bringing sterilization. I believe it started in the UK. It's in some places in the US, but I don't know if it's here yet. It basically, you don't have to remove the entire reproductive organ. You just do some minor editing with the egg sac and the testes, but you don't actually have to physically remove it, which they've shown that it has less permanent side effects on the dogs and cats. Which was my next point. There's not enough spay or neutering or sterilization because many strays make more strays and then they get brought in with a whole litter of puppies that then have to be adopted, which are then taking precedent over the other dogs that have been there longer, or, you know, that have spent 5 to 10 years in the shelter sometimes, because I don't know, is it a complicated surgery? I would say it takes more time than spaying and neutering, because spaying especially because you're removing an entire organ. Neutering doesn't take that long. Sterilization tends to take a little bit longer because it's more delicate, but the effects are less drastic than the other ones. Good question, Monica. Besides that, there's also a lot more breeders than people who rescue. And yes, there are lots of amazing rescue groups and they do wonderful things, but the majority, people always say, oh, you can't find a purebred in the rescue. And that's definitely not true, because there are rescue groups that specialize in certain breeds. Like there could be a sporting dog rescue group. There could be a Labrador Retriever. I know those are really popular. There's a lab rescue group, and they come in all 3 colors. There's a hunting dog rescue group. There's all kinds. You just have to do your research first. So rather than going straight to a breeder, maybe try going to one of the rescue groups, because I have seen puppies in these groups. I've seen full-grown dogs. I've seen seniors, and there are purebred if that's what you're into. There's also a lot of mixed breed dogs that are absolutely wonderful. I have done lots of videos on purebred versus mutts, so if you want to read that or watch it, go ahead. The consensus was that mutts tend to have less serious health conditions because they're getting a genetic blend of the 2 breeds, so they're less likely to get breed-specific health conditions. And euthanasia is, again, I'm not sure if Canada has any kill shelters, but I know the US does. And the people at the people that volunteer at the shelters, they don't want to euthanize the animals. They have to, because if they want to rescue more, they put down the oldest and the sickest ones, or the super behaviorally challenged ones that they assume will never get adopted. And sometimes if they reach a certain time in the shelter, so for example, if they're there for a year, then they get put down. And oftentimes there's nothing wrong with these dogs. They're perfectly healthy and we can help them. But because there are so many, it's difficult to be able to help all of them, which would break my heart if I worked regularly in a shelter, because I would see these animals and I would just want to help all of them, right? And sometimes big hearts can make that challenging for us. There are a lot of vet clinic stories about the staff there. I volunteered at 2 vet clinics. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to try and wrap it up a little bit. I volunteered at 2 vet clinics, and I think it was my 3rd day. They asked me to hold the body bag open. They had just put down a Great Dane who was 10. He had a good life, and they put him down. They asked me to hold the bag open, and of course, me being the newbie, I was like, oh, okay, I'll hold the bag. And then they put it in the body freezer in the back, because they have a pickup that comes and empties the freezer. And as soon as I got in my car, I just started bawling my eyes out, because just to see it, like, I know it happens, but to see it actually happen kind of brings you back to reminding you about what reality is actually going on behind the scenes, and it breaks my heart. So, but if you don't want your animal to end up homeless, make sure that they have all their IDs, they have their pet license, they have their rabies vaccine is the only one that's legally mandatory, and make sure that if something ever happens to you, they are taken care of. Because I see a lot of seniors passing away, or there being accidents and the person has 3 pets and nobody's willing to adopt all of them together unless they have extended family. So no, they say 3 is really expensive to look after, so they split them up, and it can be really, really hard on them. So I know I'm young, but I'm planning on putting together a will that says if anything ever happens to me, Kyle will go live with this person, and all of the money that I have will go to her care until she passes away. And then after that, if there's any left, it'll go to a rescue. Because I want to make sure that she's taken care of and that she'll have a good life even afterwards. That's all I have to say about homeless pets. I forget what the topic is for next week, but I'm sure it'll be interesting. Have a fabulous rest of your Tuesday, and I will see you next week.